It's okay. That's Dave's statement to me. That's what he says to me after he hurts me every time. I'm not even kidding. He goes, it's okay. It's okay. He punched me in the nuts last night. He did. There's picture proof of it. And then he came back in and demanded that I apologize to him for not letting him hit me twice. I didn't apologize. No. I'm dumb, but not that dumb. Am I supposed to wait till exact, or do I just start?
We're recording already.
Oh, you're recording already?
Yes.
I don't understand why I keep coming here. Come on, Kennedy, where are you? Let's get it over with. Like when that happens, I have some clenching. It's just, I heard the noise and it was clench. Where's Dave? Where's Dave? Yeah, well, because he told me he had something bad planned, so I brought a bodyguard. Thinking ahead. Okay. I'm still going to be nervous the whole thing. You know that, right? Doesn't matter, bodyguard or not. For all I know, Dave paid him off. And they're going to pants me on camera or something, you know? It'll be like when I was 12 all over again. Okay, so see, it just, every time it moves, I'm going to be jumpy. So we're taking a deviation from my normal speaking topics, right? Usually I'm yapping about nonverbals and body language. And today I'm going to talk about becoming a social engineer professionally. I think, honestly, this is the most asked question that I get through email and both of our websites is how do you become a social engineer? How do I get into this business? And I thought I've done a good job answering it, but I haven't, obviously, because we keep getting the question asked. So I figured let's do it here. And then I'll have a video, that will include probably me wetting myself at some point to pass to people as the answer. Can anyone guess what the second most question we get is?
Are you hiring?
What was that? No. Second most question is, how do I hack Facebook? I'm not even kidding. Third question? Third is, why wasn't Dave on the podcast? I mean, really, these are the top three biggest questions we get. But the biggest one being, yeah, okay. You know, I hear doors, I see light, I get a little afraid. So, when we started the .org, you know, what I did is I wrote a couple newsletters about it. And, the way we approached it was, I interviewed a bunch of penetration testing companies that use social engineering, and I asked them what it is they look for in social engineers. And I thought those were good articles, but they didn't really answer the question succinctly. So then we did a podcast where I had my whole team on the podcast, and we talked about the work and what skills they needed and things like that. And the question still kept coming in, so I figured, okay, we need to obviously answer it a lot more clearly and a lot better, and maybe in a format where we can do Q&A so we can get all the questions that you have answered. So, question comes up. Sorry. Let me look over my shoulder the whole time. The question comes up is, what skills do you need to be a social engineer? And everyone will usually come and say, well, should I go to college and study psychology? Should I do that? Well, the answer is no. Do we need elite ninja skills? Well, look at me. Do I look like elite ninja? No. Okay. Next one. Seriously? Okay. And I do this for a living. I mean, you know, Michelle's not the one up here. Technical skills now, you know, they're not bad to have, but they're not necessity. I had a woman come up to me at Defcon, and she's doing this for a living, and she was told by some male counterparts that she's going to fail at the job because she's not technical. Silly, right? You don't have to be technical in order to do this job. And then lastly, maybe, I don't know, Should look good in a cat suit? I don't. No, it doesn't. There may be pictures of that, but we're not going to show them to you. Okay, so what skills do you need? Well, here are the things that I look for. And the way I'm handling this talk is I think it should be handled kind of like a big old interview between the room and me. If I was hiring any one of you, these were the things that I would be looking for. So lack of fear, willingness to try new things. That's a big one. We'll talk about that in a minute. Critical thinking, probably the biggest skill to have as a social engineer, and also one of the biggest lacking skills that we see. Knowledge, empathy, and report writing. That last one's going to be a lot of fun to discuss. Okay. Now, warning. This is not how to become a bad hacker and go social engineering people talk. This is a how to become a professional social engineer talk, right? So if we were doing just how to SE people, we'd be talking more about the psychology of people making decisions and how they make decisions and what you can do to influence those decisions. That's another topic for another time. This talk is about how do you get into business? How do you become a social engineer and make money doing it, make it a career choice? Okay, so all of the things I'm talking about apply to you if you want to be a professional SE. Okay, so first, lack of fear, or the willingness to try. Yeah, now that's a guy who's fearless right there. That's all I gotta say. Okay, that's a fearless guy right there. You know, he's got kahunas. But here's the thing. A lot of times when we're doing SE, you're being asked to do things that are uncomfortable or unfamiliar to you. And it could be spend 6 hours on the phone today getting people's personal information. You know, I could tell you, I've been doing this now for over a decade. And just a couple months ago, we were doing this gig, and I made a phone call to this guy, and our goal was to get his domain credentials. And I called as IT support, and I spoofed their IT support number, and I got him on the phone, and he just happened to be having a problem with a Windows printer driver. I didn't know this when I called. And he's like, "Oh, thank God you called. I've been emailing you guys for 3 months about my computer problem. Finally, someone got back to me." I'm like, "Yep, I'm here to help." And, and he's like, "Well, I have this problem. I can't print." And he's describing the problem. And I'm going, "Wait, I actually know how to fix this. Like, I can actually help this guy, right?" So I tell him what to do with the printer driver. We reinstall it. We refresh his computer. Everything's working. He prints something. He's like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. You're the best support guy we have." And I'm like, "Oh boy." And then he starts telling me about how he's printing things at work for his daughter's wedding. She's getting married. He starts talking about his daughter and how much he loves her and all this stuff. And now I'm starting to feel pretty bad about myself. And this guy's like, "Are you going to be near the home office on this date? You should stop by the wedding. It's going to be a big party." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm such a loser." And, but I can hear all this rapport being built. So then I'm like, so he's like, "Hey, you didn't call me about this. Did you have something else you need?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." So, we're noticing some bad traffic coming from your IP address, and I need to know if it's the router or your machine. So I need to log in as you in order to check the traffic. And he's like, "Great, what do you need?" I'm like, "I need your username and password." He's like, "No problem." And he just gave it to me, right? So we log into his account, we get into his O365, his SharePoint, we upload a document that was laden with the PowerShell exploit. Then we send an email from his account to the whole company saying, "Hey, check out my new invitation for my daughter's wedding." And we hack the whole company, right? I know, okay? I feel bad enough, and I'm like, I'm confessing to you. "Excuse me, Father, for I have sinned." Okay, I mean, come on, I'm bringing it to you guys here. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you is that you have to be. We're going to get to the empathy part in a minute. Okay, but right now we're talking about lack of fear and willingness to try new things. That's a new thing because here you are. This guy trusted me. Now I know that when the report came out, and it's like, "Well, how did you hack our whole company?" Well, Jose's a really nice guy. And you have to be willing to try it, even if it feels bad, right? Now, the one thing we didn't do in that whole engagement is we never made him feel bad for having met us. So we still stuck to that principle that you hear me say all the time. As we were very positive, no threats, there was no problem with him. And there's no problem with him now in his work, right? He didn't get fired from his job. he's still employed. He gets educated. That's the goal of all of our testing. So it's an important part is the willingness to try new things, and that's what I look for in somebody. And if you don't have a skill and you're saying, I don't have this skill, I'd like to have it, so I want to learn more, that's a great quality. But you can't just say it. It has to be real to you, right? I've worked with people who they're not good at something, so they say, I don't want to do this because I'm not good at it. Now, there may come a time where that has to be the case, but the willingness to actually put yourself out there for new things is a very important skill as a social engineer. But it's a hard one because we don't like to do things that we don't like to do, right? Psychologically, it feels bad. Our brain rewards us with dopamine when we do things that we're good at. And it does not reward us when we do things that we fail at. So our self-rewarding mechanisms say, I would rather just do things I'm good at. Okay. So it's important to have this quality of trying new things and being willing to try new things and trying to control your fear for those new things. Second, critical thinking. Okay? What about my phone? Oh, my phone is what's doing the mic. If you're pointing at my phone like, speak, boy. Critical thinking. Okay, on to this topic. So, critical thinking, what does it mean? So not in the sense of maybe where you hear it in science class, right? What I'm talking about is the ability to think through problems and solutions that are not common. That, maybe you have a situation where you need to think fast on your feet, or you have a situation where everything you tried is not working. And are you able to critically think outside the box? Or are you one of these people that has to follow the rules 1, 2, 3, 4, 10? That doesn't work in social engineering. It doesn't work, right? If you're going to be a social engineer, there's too many times where we get into a building and you don't have time to follow any kind of rule set. Michelle and I were breaking into a building as pest control, and we went to the front door, and they had a team of security people there. And the guy comes out, hey, Dave, come here. I got something for you, buddy. I got something for you. That's right. You better run. I am victorious. I have dopamine reward. Just, no. Oh, I didn't touch it. That's right. Crap. Now I gotta drink it. Oh, man. Oh, wow, these things attack you. No. I gotta play by the rules. Oh, it's really hot. Now I smell like old man pee.
How would you know?
There was this time in Vegas. No. These things attack you. Okay. We'll finish that later. Let's talk about critical thinking, which just was not a great display of any of that. That's okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. Maybe we should not talk about it. Look the other way. So on critical thinking, here's one of the things that happens often in social engineering with that story, right? So we go to the front. The security guards are there. They followed every protocol properly. They asked us for our names. They asked us for a business card. And then they said, you're not on the list of approved people to come in today, so you can't come in. So in essence, we got turned away. So I said, let's walk out, around the building and just see if there's another way in. And we just happened to come upon the smoking entrance, where everyone is smoking. Now, I don't smoke, even though when I come to cons, I sound like I do. I never smoked, but you could play, right? So I went up to the people and I'm like, hey, I just quit smoking. Can I stand here and get some fresh air, right? And now they were part of their tribe, right? So a part of their tribe. And now when they go back in, we just tailgate in with them. And we're walking down the hallway, and the mass of people are going towards one place. And because I'm tall, I just happened to see that where we're going is right towards the security guards that just kicked us out. So I'm like, crap, this is gonna end badly. No, there's no white hat. No, there's no white hat. Oh no, you did it. You did it. No, you did. Jameson!
Love you, buddy.
I spent money on that costume. You suck so. You suck so bad. I'm gonna hire you so I can fire you. I can't. I have 2 already. I can't. I have to speak. Okay. Man, I can't even get through critical thinking. And this does not help in the critical thinking department. I'm telling you right now. This is not good. The V8 is oddly better. It's just like hot tomato soup. It's not bad. Don't tell them that. I mean, V8's disgusting. Give me those. Okay. So we're walking this hallway and we're heading down towards these security guards, and I'm thinking it's all over. And there's 2 elevator bays that have no buttons. You have to have a card to get in, and they just happen to open. And I go in the elevator, and Michelle is 2 people behind me, but just follows right in. Now I know that's a simple example, but to me, it's an example of being able to think on your feet. We didn't get caught. We ended up breaching the whole building actually I should tell you the ending story. We ended up breaching that whole building. We broke into the CEO level twice because my cameras failed. And we had to get back in. So we broke in the second time with the same excuse. And the way we did it was there was some construction next door to the building, and the construction, there was a newspaper article. It was a real newspaper article, and it said that this construction was kicking up these spiders that don't normally come out till spring. But these little spiders were coming out all over the place. So I made up outfits that said Big Blue Pest Control. And then I went and bought blue Gatorade, and I put them in these big poison bottles. So it was a proprietary blend of spider poison. And we walked around the place saying we were here to spray for the spiders, and everyone hates spiders, so they're like, go in there and kill them all, and we were in the CEO's, the floor with the CEO, and the woman that is there, she's like, you need to go, and he's deathly afraid. He's got arachnophobia. Go in his office and kill them all. And she puts us in the office and shuts the door. And I'm like, oh man, this is just so bad, right? And then my cameras failed, so we went and did it again. And she's like, you're back again. I'm like, we didn't get them all. We had to go refill our Gatorade, our poison. And we're running around this place and we're sweating, and we're in the elevator, and I had taken the top off one of the poison bottles, and I started drinking the Gatorade. And the elevator opens, and this guy sees me, and he's like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, it's organic. It's a special blend. And he's like, really? And I'm like, you want to try some? He's like, no, man. I'm like, okay. I can't believe that works. Organic spider poison. Okay. I don't know how this ties into critical thinking. Okay. It does, though. It really does. Just think about it and you'll figure it out, maybe. Okay. The end of the story, this is where we get into critical thinking, is I went up to our last security guard desk, and the guy did the same exact thing. Young man, he asked for a business card. He looked up my name. We weren't on the list. And he turned us away. And this one had no other doors. This was where they stored all their data servers. So there was one entrance in and out. And there was no smoking entrances or anything. So we could not find another way in. So Michelle took 2 other security guards aside while I was trying to get us in, which wasn't working, and just asked them, how do you get on the list? And one of the older security guards slipped up and said the guy's name. Joe's supposed to put you on the list, and he didn't do that. So we go out to the car, we look up Joe on the corporate website, because they were one of those that had like everything on earth on their website. We find Joe's name, we find his phone number online, I spoof as his number, I call the security desk, and I say, hey, this is Joe, I just had 2 guys get rejected. If I were supposed to be coming in to spray for spiders, you gotta let them in, we're like infested up here. Like, oh, we're sorry, his name wasn't on there. So they put my name on. We wait an hour, we come back. I'm thinking, I'm walking in doing like, down, like we're going to come right in because we're on the list. Well, the guy says, no, don't do that. Okay. So, darn. It's so sad. Okay. So we get to the front and the guy says, I said, I got a call from my secretary, said that we're on the list. He goes, well, my name was Paul there. He goes, Paul, I see your name on the list. I do. But I looked up Big Blue Pest Control on Google. And there's no Big Blue Pest Control in our state anywhere. Where did you say you're from? And I'm like, I'm from that way. And he's like, that way? He's like, that's the industrial area. And I'm like, yeah, past it. Over the bridge. He's like, there's no bridge that way, man. And I'm like, but, I don't know. I said, I get lost easy. I'm not good with directions. He's like, but your card says family owned for 20 years. And I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, we're not getting in here, are we? He's like, no, you're not getting in here. I don't care what name's on the list. Now that is an example of critical thinking, not on my part, on his, right? What he did was, even though he felt uncomfortable with the situation, and what he did was he looked us up to verify. How many security guards these things are attacking me. How many security guards do that? Right? I mean, when we wrote our report, we said you need to make that guy your trainer for all security guards. And that's what they did. So I'm like, that was an epic win on your part to be able to do that. Critical thinking is being able to take your work to that extra step, and it is essential as a social engineer to be able to do that. And also involved in critical thinking is challenging your own beliefs, right? So challenging them. Like, because you say that this is not going to work. I don't think this is going to work. I don't think that's right. Try it. I cannot tell you how many students I've had come to my class that will say, no one's going to give me this information you're telling me to get. And they come back the next day and I'm like, oh my God, everybody gives me this information. And all I did was ask. And I'm like, just try it. And you will be amazed. Okay, knowledge. Now, a lot of people think that maybe they need to have a degree. And I'm not going to say that degrees are worthless. I'm not going to say that at all. I think that having a college education proves that you have the stick-to-itiveness to go through and jeez, dude. And okay, sorry. I'm just waiting for something bad to happen. To prove that you have that study ability of writing is a big thing that's taught in university or college. So it's a really good skill set to have. But other skills that are important for social engineers, the first one is OSINT, so open source intelligence gathering. That's an important skill set to have, because really the crux of an SE is being able to find information online. And if you can't find information online, you could be great at attack vectors, but what are you attacking? Right? You need to know what your attack vectors are going to be, and OSINT does that. So if you want to practice anything, stalk people, right? Legally. I'm not talking like not you outside the window with binoculars. Okay, I saw what you were doing. But no, like stalk them online. Do it to your family and friends. See what you can find out. Just over the week here, we were teaching a class here, and one of my students said, I'm going to try to find my uncle online, even though I know where he lives. I know all his info. I'm going to try to find him as if I didn't know him. Because he's like one of those crazies that like sets up a trust fund to buy credit cards so he can purchase things online. So like, he's like Michael Basil. So like, let's see if we can find him. And you OSINT, and when you get good at it, you'll have a really great skill. Understanding the newest vectors is also super important as a social engineer. So, right now, what's being done more in the market? Vishing, right? So vishing, V with a V. So phone phishing. That's the new hotness in social engineering, right? All the bad guys are using it. So you have to understand, what are the vectors? How are they doing? It's just like if you want to be an exploit writer. You need to know all that stuff, right? Well, this is human exploitation. So you need to know what the newest vectors are out there, keeping up and educated on those things. And this is probably the biggest one. It's understanding the why, not just the what. I guarantee you, for anyone in this room that doesn't know anything about social engineering, in 15 minutes, I can get you to get some personal details out of a complete stranger. I guarantee you. 15 minutes of training. I mean it. We've done it 1,000,000 times. We've had over 700 students, and none of them have ever failed at that exercise. Okay, but it's a huge gap being able to social engineer someone and understanding why it worked. Understanding that rapport releases certain chemicals in your brain, that trust will release another chemical in your brain, and that all of those chemicals mix together and create these emotional bonds between us as humans, how nonverbals react to creating bonds between people. Understanding that makes you a better professional social engineer, because now you're not just exploiting people, but you're helping them understand why it worked. And the why helps you fix things, right? And you don't want a mechanic that you drive in and the guy goes, yep, car's got a problem. What's the use? Right? And then he just looks at it and goes, yeah, it's probably going to die soon. That's not useful to you. You want to pull into a mechanic, he hears the noise and he goes, I know exactly what's wrong. It's going to be like $100 to fix it. You can leave it, have it tomorrow. That's the kind of SE you want. I'm telling you, there's too many people out there. They just hang a shingle, say, oh, we do SE, and it's easy. They can become great overnight. But understanding the why is super important. That way you can help people fix the problems. And then technology. And if you don't have technology, you don't have a desire to have technology, then be willing to admit that and have a team. Like, a decade ago, when I was working with the offset guys, I was way more technical. And then I focused just on human exploitation. And I don't write exploits anymore. Right? I haven't fuzzed anything in like 8 years. So I would open up Ollie debug if that's even used anymore. I'm not sure. And I wouldn't know what to do with it firsthand, right? So what do I do if I need that? I hire people like Ryan and I say, okay, you go exploit stuff and I will hack humans, because you have to be able to say, I need a team that can back me up on those things. So be willing to work with other people or get that team. And that's the kind of knowledge you have. Okay, this is the biggest one, empathy. As a professional social engineer, again, this is why I said that warning in the beginning. We're not talking about malicious social engineering because they lack this piece. But empathy will keep us from a few things. One, thinking that there's no patch for human stupidity, right? We've all seen the shirt. It's a horrible phrase and a horrible statement. Why? Because it indicates that if you've fallen for a social engineering gig, that you are stupid. I've been social engineered. I've clicked on a fish. I've been SE'd after I did all of this stuff. I'm not impervious to it, right? I've been manipulated by people. Right? Every year, one person actually makes it into our SE party at DEF CON unauthorized. They SE past us and they get in. It still works. You're still a human, right? So it worked. Someone behind me? Okay. I just saw people laughing. Okay. So it still works. I mean, look, here's a great example. I'm scared to death of Dave because he constantly SEs me. It still works. Now, what makes the connection, the difference between a professional and a non-professional is this piece, which is empathy. Because if you have empathy for your clients and for people, your motivators to want to hack humans is not self-glorification. It's not making yourself feel better or to prove how elite you are. It's to actually help. It's to actually fix things. It's to actually make companies better. And that will make you a better social engineer overall. You will actually be able to do your job better and accomplish things better, and you will make your clients happier. Okay, so it's a really, really important piece of the puzzle. And last but not least, is report writing. And I gotta tell you, I don't, how many of you people here manage other people that have to write reports for you? Give me a hand raise. How many of your people suck at writing reports? And more hands went up than the first time, right? Yeah. And how many of you have to write reports for a living? And now be honest, how many of you suck at it? Yeah, same, right? And I gotta say, I'm not great at it. I'm not. This is why Michelle is so important to me, is because she's amazing at it. That's not the only reason, obviously, but that she is really good at it. So think about this. You have the most amazing team on earth, and I feel that I do. And you can accomplish almost any SE gig. You can break into any place. You understand the why, not just the what. But now, how do you translate all of that to your client? It is the report, right? So they don't want 4 pages of, we hacksaw you, ha ha, right? They want to know what worked, why it worked, and how do we fix it. That's exactly what they want. And a report does that. So, and I'm sure you all have this same philosophy. Putting like a dump, like a Ness's dump inside of a report, bad form, right? Well, the same way, we don't do that with our clients. We don't just take a copy paste of every piece of OSINT we found and just dump it in a report and say, here it is. We format it. We explain why it's bad. We show them the Google Docs or the tools that we use to find that OSINT. On and on. We can talk about report writing literally the whole day, and it would be boring as heck, and you guys would hate me. But it's such an important skill to have for professional social engineers. And you have to be willing to say, if you stink at it, I tell you, this should be one of your first investments if you're going to get in the career, is getting someone with you that can write reports. Because that will literally excel your business beyond belief. If your clients are telling other people, man, you should see the reports we get from these. And they may not even recognize that what it is the report, but they will gauge your quality of work on the report you give them. Right? So if you give them a crappy report, they're going to say, these guys obviously don't know what they're doing. Right? But if you give them a good report, they're going to think you're the most elite person on the planet. I cannot tell you the difference in our clients' opinions 5 years ago when I hired Michelle and she took over that skill set for us. She's amazing. And the things that come out from her desk are truly remarkable in reporting. I read them and I go, wow, we did all that? That's awesome. Man. Really cool. We're pretty awesome, So you need that. Very, very important. Okay. I'm going to go on a mini rant. And I need somebody to stop me if I get too far. And I hope I don't tick anybody in the room off, but I think this is really, really important. There's this like phenomenon in the pen testing industry, not just social engineers, where we brag about always having 100%. And I always see that and I'm like, really? So think about this. Do you want a doctor that when you walk into your doctor, he says to you, 100% of my clients die all the time, every time. They all die. Pay me $1,500 for this test. And you're like, why should I pay you for anything if I'm gonna die? So I go to my clients and I think, okay, if I'm telling them that you are going to fail 100% of the time, I am always going to win, please give me $50,000. Where's the motivator for them, right? I mean, we're so, the 100% thing is based on your own ego. It's based on your own ego. And what I want is my clients to think and not just think it, but prove it, that there is a way you are going to improve. Now, what does that mean? You're going to have to follow some rules. You're going to have to make some changes if you want to improve. But instead of selling myself as the 100% guy, I'm going to sell myself as the guy that eventually is failing more than my clients. Because that's a motivator, right? Don't you want to spend money with a guy who's eventually going to fail? And not on purpose. Honestly, not on purpose. I have a client and they do the most amazing job at training their people. 2 years ago, we did a vishing exercise with them. We hacked them really, really bad. We used 2 women agents of mine. One acted like she was going into labor on the phone. And while she was in labor, her assistant picked up the phone and she was trying to get bank account details unverified. And because of the stress on the male agent on the other end of the line, she needs the payroll data before she gives birth. Like, we went from the office to the hospital on this phone call magically. The guy never realized it, right? And it was like, she's giving birth on the floor. We need the payroll data. And he's like, here's your account number. Here's your balance. Here's your password. Just go help her give birth, right? Really, really unfair pretext. But, I tried it. It didn't work as well. No, it didn't. I'm serious. I didn't try. Then two years passed. They took every recommendation that we gave them. And they went and they trained their people. They set up protocols. They set up new technology. They did everything we told them to do. Just a couple of months ago, they said, we want you to do the same exact test and we want you to go even more hardcore. Like, there's no rules. You can do anything you want. If you find their house, you can go to their house and kidnap them. We don't care. Okay. They didn't say that, but we may have went that far once. Okay. Now, we tried everything possible. And we failed miserably. I mean, it was the most demoralizing 60 hours of work we had in the year. Because it was 60 hours of vishing and we could not get past stage 1. And it was amazing. At the end, we're all like sitting around like, man, we really suck. This is terrible, But then we're like, hey guys, listen. Wait, this is the client that we totally owned 2 years ago. They did everything we said and now we can't get past stage 1. That's amazing. We should be celebrating this. This is like a success story. So the 100% thing really irritates me because it just says to your client base, you're never going to win. You're never going to improve, but keep giving me money. I don't like it. This one is a personal one. And if you do this, I'm not judging. I'm just saying for me, how I try to picture how I would feel live tweeting your pen tests. It really bothers the crap out of me. I mean, it really does. Like, I'm trying to picture myself, like, I go to my doctor, right? And I'm checking my doctor's Twitter, and he's like, man, this fat dude's got a bleeding problem. I don't know what's going on. Bam, Now, he didn't say my name, He didn't say my name, but I know he's talking about me because I'm sitting in his office. And then he leaves there and like, the nurses and I are laughing at this guy. Look at him. He can't even fit in the gown. Bam, tweet, right? I would be like, I'm never going back to this guy. It's so humiliating, right? So I'm thinking about my clients sitting on Twitter. They all follow us, right? They know who we are when they hire us and they see us live tweeting. Well, I should see this guy's security. It's unbelievable. It sucks so bad. And I would feel embarrassed for their clients when they do that. So, that's again a personal rule for me, but in my company and my employees, we don't do it. We don't live tweet stuff because it's for jobs. We do it for other things like the cons and stuff and Dave pranking me all the time, but for jobs, I don't want a client to ever feel bad for having met me. So to keep that rule alive, we don't live tweet things. Okay, that's my rant, my mini rant. Okay, here's other skills that won't hurt. So, experience. Now, people will ask all the time, how do you get experience if no one's willing to hire you? And that is a really hard answer. I don't have a good one for you, and I'm sorry. Back 8 years ago or so when I started this thing, there was a few of us, right? I mean, if you looked up social engineering on the internet, it was Kevin Mitnick, and that was it. Right? And then you had Frank Abagnale, but, he wasn't really a social engineer. He was like a con artist. But you didn't have anyone doing it professionally. You had Kevin. That was it. So now, if you look up social engineers on the web, you have like tons of them, right? Everyone has a shingle that says we do SE. So, but not everyone's hiring. So how do you get the experience? Well, the hard answer is if you really want to break in the industry, you only have two choices. You gotta get hired at a company that does some SE and work from the ground up. And that stinks for a lot of you. And I'll tell you why. It's because you're probably established in your careers. You're probably established already and you've gotten your raises and you've worked up to whatever, 80, 90, 100, over 100K a year. And now you want to start a new career. Guess what? You're not coming in up here. Right? If you have no experience and you're getting hired for SE, you're coming in down here. And that's going to be hard for a lot of people to do that. The second is start your own company. That's not easy either. It's not easy. Why? Because, you're going to have to get your clients to trust you. And that's going to be a hard job. So I know that's not very encouraging, but both of those things can work. And right now, I heard a statistic that somewhere between 15 and 20% of American companies are doing annual phishing programs. And I went from 4 to 10 people in like 6 months. So that's only 15% of American companies and that kind of growth, and I'm a small company. Dave hires like everybody every 15 minutes. So the companies that are doing good work are growing. So there is opportunities out there, but you have to make yourself known, and that will come in the next one. Education, we spoke about that, different things you can teach yourself and practice. But community involvement is probably one of the bigger ones. And what does that mean? Derbycon's an amazing place to submit a speech because they don't just look for people who've spoken a million times. They let new people speak. And getting up here, giving back to the community, writing a white paper, writing a blog post, doing some research, something that gives back to the community is a very, very important part of making a name that can get you into this career. If this is something you really want to do. People will look at the work that you submit online and they will say, hey, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. I like the way that this guy writes. It really can happen. It happened to me. I wasn't an author. I didn't want to write a book. When I put the framework out there, it was actually, Kevin Mitnick's publisher called me and asked if I wanted to write a book on the framework. It wasn't, I didn't call her. I didn't solicit that. And I rejected the offer because I'm a moron. I can't write anything. And I think I proved it with that book. I quoted Wikipedia 3 times and I wrote about NLP. So obviously I gotta change some things up, which I did later on. But it was a really scary proposition, but that was a life-altering situation for me. So getting involved in the community to give back is a very important part of doing this as a career. And where does this lead? I don't know if anybody, heard my my DEF CON speech, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I get to do professionally because of this. You know, when I started this thing, it really was just, let's get a few clients. I never thought about having a company that employed people. It was like, let's just get some clients and fish some people, break into some places, do all the fun, cool stuff. And that turned into massive companies asking for help, having to hire people to do the work, having to train new people, having to hire people that have already done this, and establishing a framework for it all, which many people now use, which is really rewarding. It's rewarding personally. But then, in a couple cases, we got to actually help and through OSINT track and trap people who were exploiting children. Right? So we got to help track one guy who was using his organization-issued phone and laptop to fly to third world countries and molest children and videotape it. And then he was selling those videos. And we found this through a pen test. And we were able to uncover him, and he's in prison now. And that feels really good, right? You know? Yeah. And then I got to use actual real SE skills. There was another guy who was bringing little girls in from Asian countries into America. You may not know this, but 60% of the world's child pornography is produced in this country. That's a disgusting statistic. And sex slavery is a big business here. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. And this guy was bringing in little girls from Asian countries for sex slavery in this country. And I was able to use social engineering skills to find out his home address, by calling, airlines and rental car companies and tricking them into giving me his information. And now he's sitting in prison. Thank you. So, yeah. So a couple things came out of that, which was, I realized, now this was like 50, 60 hours, and it wasn't a job. It was something that I had to do, on the side. 10. Thank you. And it was rewarding, but it was time consuming. And it was also psychologically damaging. You can't step in a mud puddle and not get dirty, right? So I decided to start a nonprofit foundation, a nonprofit organization called the Innocent Lives Foundation. And I've already been corrected, so don't tell me I know the foundation is not a great technical term. Thanks, Kat. But it's a nonprofit. It's a 501c. And what we're doing is we're using good OSINTers from the white hat hacking community, and we're hunting child exploiters online. And we're doing it in a safe environment on technology that we're creating. And we're working with law enforcement and government agencies and getting these people apprehended and imprisoned. And it's gone unbelievable. I launched it in July. We have over 300 volunteers. I have 5 Fortune 500 companies supporting us with donations. We've already collected thousands of dollars in donations, and I have the infrastructures being built, and we're just ready to really start rocking and getting, hopefully making a difference with some of these poor kids who are being exploited on the internet. I'd love to talk more about it, but I want to take some Q&A. But the website is innocentlivesfoundation.org. And if you want to sign up to help, if you got OSINT skills or other skills, check it out there. It's just really, really going amazing. So let's take some Q&A. Kat? Does Big Blue Pest Control have a website was the question. No. But they do have a little more legitimacy online for the next time I need to use them. Yes, Gary.
So this is very interesting to me. You talked about the pay differential. What does an experienced employee of a company such as yours actually earn?
Ron, you want to tell your... No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No. So the question was, what can you expect to make? And that is almost an impossible question to answer. And I'll tell you why. You can't go to Glassdoor and find out what the average salary is for a social engineer. It doesn't exist, right? So what I would do in your head is think about a lead penetration tester versus like a noob, like a new person. And you can use those salary ranges as a guide, right? And then you have to also gauge it on the state that you're from, where you are, because salary ranges will adjust depending on where you live and things like that. In my company, we don't follow any conventional rules. Literally, you can ask every one of my people when they get hired, it's how much do you need to make to live? And how much are you comfortable with living with? And I don't mean that as a bargain basement. What do you need to make? If I feel that I can afford that and that you are worth that money, then that's what you get paid. It's not based on some preconceived notion on what the market says you're worth. I don't want anyone working for me that's uncomfortable. Because as soon as you hate your job because you're uncomfortable, you're going to start looking elsewhere and you're going to do a crap job for me. And I don't want that. I want you working for me and I want you being happy. So the question comes, it's one of the first questions I ask. Everyone says, that's a really bad opening question because, that's really hard to answer. I'm like, that's just the way we do it. That's just the way it is. No, okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, so the question was, the country that he's from, Jamaica, doesn't have a lot of SE focus, so he does many things. He does like risk assessment, pen test, and SE. The question was, is it better to focus on one area? My answer is really going to be hard to follow because I'll tell you, 9 years ago when I started this company and I said, I'm going to do only SE. That was what I was going to focus on. There was nobody that was doing just social engineering only. And my wife went, because my wife, she's not in the industry and she's super smart. So she goes, okay, well, this is your goal. How many people are doing it and how successful are they? And I went, there's nobody doing it, so there's no success. She goes, well, what makes you think that, we can do it? And I'm like, I don't know, I just think we can. That was literally the dumbest answer you can give a really smart planning person. And she's like, okay, let's try. And it worked. But I can't tell you that it will do the same for you. I don't know, right? For me, I had a hard time saying I'm going to master exploit writing and I'm going to be a master SE. So I had to say to myself, I got to do one or the other because I felt it was a disservice to be like I'm a jack of all trades. But with that being said, if the market that you're in, like I went to Japan, we had some work in Japan, and I gave a big speech, and we tried to launch SE pen testing in Japan, and it never flew. It never went anywhere because the Japanese people don't get the concept, not because they're stupid. That's not the case at all. They just trust everybody. It wasn't SE. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was like, it was beyond comprehension of what was happening. Like you just walk in and no one even goes, why are you here? It's just like, please move, plug in this USB drive, and they just, okay, and then I hack them and you leave. And it's like, I don't even know what to write in the report. Like, maybe don't move out of my way next time, or stop me, or I don't know. There was no fix. There has to be a base education. So, long and horrible answer, but I can't give you that direction without feeling morally responsible that if I said to you, do what I did and it doesn't work, you're now unemployed. But for me, I had a hard time saying I was going to be 50% at 5 things. I wanted to be 100% at one thing. And it just worked for me, Yes, sir. I'm sorry? No, I didn't go to the wedding. I don't want to ever see that guy. If I see him, I'd be like, right now, if I meet a guy named Jose, I look away. I don't know if it's you or not. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I don't know. You may be Jose. Yes, sir. Yeah, so he asked, how do you know what like the new vectors are, right? Because I mentioned vishing was it. So we do 2 things. We set up Google alerts for all the keywords, right? Like vishing, fish, phishing, impersonation. We have Google alerts for all those keywords on news stories. And then I have 2 people in my company, their sole job, one of the parts of their job is collecting all those news stories, and we categorize them in a big giant, online Excel document. And we have the year, the month, and the vector, and if it was business or personal attack. And then we analyze that data on, every 6 months or so and look for, okay, do we see an increase in vishing stories and phishing stories and smishing stories? Like smishing was super hot right after Wells Fargo got breached. Then it went away again. And I'm sure maybe with Equifax, if phone numbers and mobile phones were in that, we're going to see that come back, right? But we just kind of watch the market, and that's how we base it. And then you can go to companies like Pindrop. Pindrop does analysis on phone-based attack data, and then you look at some of the big phishing companies that release their data. The Verizon DBI report is an excellent report for giving you like what's happened over the last year and what kind of attacks are there. So it's just a lot of like analysis, reading, and research to find out where you're at. Yes, sir. Yeah, I can. It's really ridiculous. So I start off with the question, how much do you need to make a year? I'm not even kidding. Because it's like, so let's say I'm really honestly looking for someone at a $70,000 range, but you need to make 140. Then even if I need you, even if you're the best person for the job, I can't afford you right now. So hiring you is gonna disappoint one of us, right? And that's not good. So if we start there, because I don't want to ever have someone take a massive pay cut that's going to affect their life to come work for me. Because I've had people offer that, and I don't like it. Because if you have family stress at home, your stupid new bosses, and that it becomes a problem. Plus, I have a virtual office. We don't have physical office space. Every one of my people work from their home. Because I have people on every time zone. I have Hawaii, Seattle, Colorado, Ohio, Florida, Texas, we have people everywhere. So we don't have really just 1 minute. You just go in peace. I'm just going to take that as, I love you. Okay. We have 10 more minutes. No, we don't. So we start with that question, and then let's say we match. Now we go to talking about your skill set. I'm not a big one on resumes, right? I'm not, because I think a resume is, a resume is like your Tinder photo. You put the best one out there. You know what I mean? No one goes, here's my resume and all the places I got fired. It's like you put your best stuff out there. So I want to talk to the person, and we do a lot of video-based interviews, right? So we do video-based interviews where I can see your face, your body language. We talk, honestly, big thing. We get there into the video interview, and somebody comes in their pajamas, look like they just woke up. Yeah, you're probably not getting hired. You know what I mean? And that's happened to me. Like, it's just like, just because you're doing an interview from home, come like you actually work for a company, right? I mean, I tell my people this. We all work from home, but get up and make believe it's a real job, right? Because it is. Like take a shower, put some freaking clothes on, come sit at your desk, more than 1 minute before you're supposed to log on. Like treat it like a real job, and you will be successful at it. So we talk about all those things, and then if we get serious, that's when we start talking about like referrals and other things like that, and skill set, and we go from there. Do I have any more time? I don't. Okay, so guys, we have the SE Village over here, SECTF today. We have a panel tonight